Rabbi Meza, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, I got the idea. You have a lot of things to say, and apparently you're very against. And I mean, I hear your complaints, but I think you're misunderstanding the basics of it, of what it means. And I would love to talk with you about that. Even now, I mean, I've got some time if you do.
I'm currently driving, but let me tell you what I actually did say in my last video, because I think you may have misunderstood.
Okay.
I was actually defending Chabad, not putting them down.
Okay. That did not come across very...
By saying that they're neither heretics nor idolaters.
Appreciate
With
that,
the other things people have said about Chabad, even in that video, because there were other people commenting, sharing their experiences with Lubavitch. What I said actually placed them in a gray area, because if you're neither an idolater nor a heretic, we could still talk to you. You're not out of the fold.
Right. No, I mean, it's not that. Yeah, you have to understand that you're not the only enemy, right? I don't mean enemy in a negative sense. I mean someone who disagrees that has a valid point. Okay, someone who's against the ideas, like Lubavitch. Also, the biggest opposition in our age, is not someone that we used to call someone that was a misnagid. That doesn't exist today.
What? It does exist. The students of Panovich or Rav Shach.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So Rav Shach, even in and of himself, like, he was not a real misnagid. Okay, he did not understand, even though he was a big going in Talmud. I'm not on that level. But all I can say is that he obviously did not understand what was happening, because all the Mikubalim, were on the side of the Rebbe. He was on his side by himself. You want to say...
So the Gra was mystically inclined to some extent. For sure, he wasn't ignorant on the issue. He even wrote a parish of the Zohar.
Yeah, you have to understand, what does it mean to be a misnagid? Do you know? What does it mean?
To be against.
Yeah, against what?
To be against the weird ideas. To be against the nonsense.
No. It's not nonsense. It's literally being against the promotion of Kabbalah into our society.
Even the Gra, the one who put Chabad in Harem, defended the Ramchal. He said he would travel and walk all the way to Italy to learn from the Ramchal. So ultimately, Kabbalah wasn't the issue.
That's not what I'm saying. He was against the spreading of Chassidus. He thought that it was not appropriate to teach the inner teachings Kabbalah as you would understand it.
The Tanya is the Bible of Chabad. It was written by Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, who was put in Harem by the Gra, by the Vilna Gaon.
No, he was not put in Harem by the Gra. Not the Baal, not the Alter Rebbe. Look it up. Check your book. It was.
I'm positive.
Wait, hold on. That was put in Harem by himself. It was all Chassidus. It was the Baal Shem Tov himself, who was alive at the time when the Harem was said.
The Harem mentioned nothing of the Baal Shem Tov.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure the Baal Shem Tov was dead by that time.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. If it was not the Baal Shem Tov, it was the Maggid Emissaries. It was in his day when the Gra lived, and it had nothing to do with Chabad specifically.
It was Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi. Everybody knows this.
It's news to me, because you need to check your facts right there. It was not specifically against Chabad. Look it up. It was against Chassidus.
Without Tanya, there is no Lubavitch.
No, yeah, okay, you could say that, but the Tanya is not just the basis of Lubavitch. The Tanya, they actually call it, and if you look at this across the Chassidic world, everyone celebrates Yud Kislev, because that's the day where not just Tanya, but Tanya, they call it the written Torah of Chassidus.
No, it's true. Nowadays, a lot of people have sold out and dropped the whole Nagid cause. That I'll give you. I'm not sure what made that happen. Maybe Shlomo Karbach. I'm not sure. But yes,
but I'm saying,
today they're definitely few in number.
There is not a group of Chassidim that I understand today. You could please prove me wrong. I'm only looking for knowledge. That does not accept it to be a factual book.
Look, I understand that the 770 cult and those that support it are not the same as the Hasidim of the Alter Rebbe and their ideas. In some cases, I would say they're actually worse. So, if he was put in Harem for doing less than what's done today, you can imagine how far Chabad has strayed.
Of course not. Of course not. Do you know that there was actually 3 sects of Chabad at one point?
Sure, the Malachim.
You know the history. I'm just telling you. They're not.
You're telling me that there aren't people nowadays that attack Chabad or in some way support the
You
Harem.
know what it means to be in the Snagget is what my question was originally. Is a person who knows what Hasidus means, and he's still against it. He does not like the message of Hasidus. No matter, from the Baal Shem Tov on. That is what a Misnagdid is. And it was a legitimate point of view until...
Not with the Baal Shem Tov on.
From the Baal Shem Tov on. Even before...
Misnagdim started with the Gra.
That's not technically true. Misnagdim started in Germany, okay? When they put the Baal Shem of Worms, you know, in Harem. That was the Indian after what happened in Tafatat. And he was kicked out because he was a miracle worker. He was the Rebbe of the Rebbe of the Rebbe of the Baal Shem Tov. If you understand the history, you can see exactly how it happened. They were against the Shabbat Tzvi enough to say, we understand what you're trying to teach, but it's worse than
Shabbat Tzvi was Sephardi, by the
being...
way. How could it be affiliated with the Baal Shem Tov?
How is he affiliated with the Baal Shem Tov? Oh, you're going to love this. You know what? Everything that you think is Jewish has some Sephardic root. I'll teach you that.
You got to give me some practical answers here. I mean, you're making some claims that historically are hard to link.
Some roots, okay? The Alter Rebbe, right? He was a student of the Maggid Emissaries, but his grandfather was Baruch of Portugali. He was from Portugal, okay? You can look that up. He was named after his grandfather. His father was Baruch Portugali, okay? This is the link, okay? The Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov, right? He had a teacher. His teacher's name was Rabbi Adam, the Baal Shem of Ropshit, okay? His teacher's name was Rabbi Yoel, the Baal Shem of Zamich, okay? His teacher's name was Rabbi Eliyahu, the Baal Shem of Worms, okay? Rabbi Eliyahu, the Baal Shem of Worms, his father was a Jew named Rabbi Yosef Yosfa, who was a Jew from Spain, who came over after 1492 and moved to the city of Krakow in 1500. He was an old man. Okay, there's a whole history there. He was a Spanish-Portuguese Jew.
Okay, I mean, get to the point.
Right, the point is that Rabbi Elio, the Baal Shem of Worms, was known as a miracle worker, but that was, they accused him of being the teacher of...
Okay, an accusation. Fine. Let's get back to the premise. The statements that were made against Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi and his Hasidim back then was that they were doing weird things. They were praying on their heads. They were doing cartwheels in synagogues. Now, at least for normative Chabad, I'm not saying the 770 cult, but normative Chabad nowadays, it seems that the Harem was probably the best thing that could have happened to them because it got them to drop, at least the normal ones, it got them to drop a lot of those crazy ideas.
What you're listening to Hasidic problem. No, there was 1 year. They say a toker chassid is not a chassid. There was a toker year. You know, Tov Shin, it was not Shin. Tov.
I still don't know what your point is. You started off saying that there are no Misnagdim nowadays. And I said Panovich and Rav Shach.
I'm telling you, they're not Misnagdim.
Oh my gosh, come on. Okay, fine. Next
point. They don't have the knowledge necessary to be Misnagdim. They don't understand what they're against. And therefore, they
you don't have to know the inner workings of the movement to be against it.
No, you need to know what it is you are against. You can't be against something without knowing it, okay?
What's the point?
That comes to Christianity. The point is that we're stepping on a lot of foot. My brain goes in a lot of places. I would love to talk to you about understanding the basis based on biblical Talmudic sources for saying that the Rebbe is still Mashiach today, and bringing a lot of ideas about it, and how it's not outside of the realm of Judaism.
And I never said that it was outside of the realm of Judaism. There are many Jewish groups that teach a lot of nonsensical ideas. That's fine. And really, with the whole Yechid thing doesn't really bother me. I think I made that very clearly. Who you believe the Messiah is does not determine whether you are a Jew or not, or how you treat other people.
This is actually my biggest problem with you. Yeah, look at you. This is great. I love it. You're so on point. God bless you, by the way, about being, free of mind and on point. Yeah, you're wrong. I'll say that. Please, we can still get along. But the idea that you think that there isn't a difference between levels of neshamas, how can you say that there's, why be one wing of a non-Jew when you could be a Jew? To me, that is so disgusting.
Okay.
Because
can I respond?
I love it. Okay, I'm listening, but I already have a problem with what you said.
Can I respond? The points I made in my last video is that it ultimately doesn't matter what you believe in terms of who has this neshama or that neshama, as long as it doesn't get you to exclude people or in some way make Judaism look ridiculous. In other words, you guys are making Judaism look ridiculous by saying that people born of Jewish mothers are intrinsically superior to those not born of Jewish mothers. Now, that's nowhere in the Torah, that's nowhere by Chazal in the Talmud. The point is that anything not endorsed in Torah, that doesn't appear in Torah, or mentioned by Chazal, cannot be called Torah. So by calling it Torah, you're hurting Torah. Now, according to Torah and according to Chazal, there is no difference between a born Jew and a Goy if they both keep Torah. And if the born Jew doesn't keep Torah, he's equivalent to a Goy who doesn't keep Torah.
Wow. Oh, now you're changing that.
Because I'm not a bigot.
Torah, right, no, exactly.
I just spoke, I think about 2 months ago, to someone who holds identical to Lubavitch.
I must say, I'm not affiliated with any representative group.
He said it the clearest, that if you put a Jewish baby and a Gentile baby on one table, that Jewish baby is head and shoulders. Already, he's head and shoulders above that Gentile baby spiritually and in worth to God.
It's an interesting question because we're talking about a baby. So how do you define a baby?
The reason it's a good question is because the baby hasn't accepted anything on himself. He's not hired to do any mitzvahs.
Whether there's a mitzvah or not, okay? It says believe the midrash is true Torah.
Midrashim are optional to believe.
Okay, no, not that they're optional to believe. They're optional to believe literally. Okay. They are Torah. You don't have to believe them literally. Moses, in last week's parsha, this is a great, introduction.
Midrashim are not Torah, by the way.
They 100% they're Torah. Well, how do we get them? How do you get a Mishnah? Are you telling me that one Mishnah is...
Are you making no distinction between Mishnayos and Midrashim?
100% I'm making no distinction except for where we define halacha.
Now, midrash or a medrash is equivalent to what's called
Agadah. When I a book called Ein Yaakov, that's just the stories that we have from the Gemara. But those are all midrashim and Bereshim and also Mishnayos telling us stories. But it's just the stories, no halachas. Okay? We can understand that there are stories and there are halachas. When you hear a midrash, it's a story. You could take it literally and still be a Jew, and you could also understand that
the Torah clearly says, "Lo tosef alav." Right? You'd be a Baal Tosif if you're considering these tales, these legends, on the level of Torah. You see, this is the big difference between Chabad and the rationalists.
All right. Well, if you understand the idea of a mashal or in English a parable, they do exist, and it's necessary to understand Torah. Okay, so there's a book. It's called, it's not only in Yiddish, it's not only in Hebrew. Lahavin Indian Chassidus. Understanding the essence of Chassidus is in English. The Rebbe wrote this, explaining the difference between Chassidus and Kabbalah. And this is going to be a shocker to you, because it was a shocker to me.
It doesn't have to be a shocker if it's just opinion literature.
Well, you think so, but it's Torah.
The words of the Rebbe, Torah also?
God talking to us.
Talking through the Rebbe. All right, you believe this. Wait, just let me say this again. You believe the words of the Rebbe, any Rebbe, any Admor, is Mamish Hashem talking to us.
This is the Baal Shem Tov said, everything you see and everything you hear is God talking.
Wait a minute. That's a cop-out right there. I mean, if I hear Fidel Castro giving a speech, that's God talking to me?
Yeah. Technically, God's talking there. That's why we hold him to the flame.
All right, so that's a literary form of panentheism.
Panentheism, I believe in. Yes, and I know you don't.
I
you
said
might not.
panentheism, not pantheism.
Right? No. But so you understand, and I can be clear. The bush next to me, the tree next to me, the car I'm driving, that's not God. Okay? I don't believe that.
So it seems like you're redefining it as you go along, because people who do believe in panentheism believe that everything is God. Everything, a shoe, a skateboard.
Right, exactly. So I'm saying, I won't pray to the shoe.
All right, so you don't believe it.
I won't pray to you, and I won't pray to me. Right? I won't pray to the Rebbe. I won't pray to a book. Okay? What I'm saying is that only God means only God. Just like it says in Yeshayahu, right? Hurrah. Okay? That's what he does.
You're saying that you won't pray to the Rebbe.
No one prays to the Rebbe, honestly.
All right, fine.
All right.
You might find one person, maybe, but that guy's crazy. There's not a Lubavitcher you'll find today who prays to the Rebbe.
Okay. Have you been to the Ohel?
Of course.
So on top of his kever, aren't there thousands of letters written to the Rebbe?
No. It depends how you define kever. Yes. People write letters at the Rebbe's grave.
That is a form of prayer. Prayer is communicating with or beseeching, not necessarily worshiping or servicing.
At a kever, right? Davening at a grave of a tzaddik is in the Bible. It was in last week. It was in the a couple weeks ago, right? Kalev went and davened.
It doesn't say that, by the way. You're confusing people. You're tying in a midrash that says that Kalev went and davened to Avraham Avinu, that he actually prostrated on his kever. That's just a midrash. It's not in the Torah.
I'm pretty sure it's there, but I could be wrong.
There's a lot of negative things that have to be said about that midrash. But now you're saying that it's okay to write letters to a Rebbe, to beseech a cadaver.
Doesn't die.
But are you okay with beseeching the Rebbe with requests?
Not only that.
Isn't that prayer?
Every single Lubavitcher who calls himself a shliach is being sent by who? Let me ask you that. I'm sure you're going to use that one. Who are they being sent by? We learned in the Gemara in Gittin that it really affects. It's a physical problem. If you send a shliach with a get, but then the guy dies, she's not a divorcee. She's a widow, and it makes a difference.
I don't think it matters. All shluchim nowadays are emissaries of 770 and whoever's calling the shots behind the scenes there. In other words, the Rebbe doesn't have to be alive in order for someone to be considered a shaliach.
They're a shliach of who? Not the rabbis that are, funding or collecting. They're a shliach of the Rebbe. That's who's sending them.
All right, so when Mormons come knocking on your door as messengers of Joseph Smith, does that mean that they still believe that Joseph Smith is walking alive among them?
If they believe that, that's something they could believe in. But I'm telling you that the Rebbe's standing on top of 770 saying, the time for your redemption's arrived. You might not see it. He's literally in the Ohel, but the tzaddik's not rotting and they're alive. Like, we can say where he is or what's happening, but and the Maharsha has a great
to defend Chabad a little bit, I don't think most Chabadniks believe like you do. You're saying that you believe that the Rebbe is alive. He's alive, but hidden. Not just hidden.
I know where he is. But he's alive. He's alive as a tzaddik. What do we call them? They say those who are sleeping in the dust. It says not. But let me tell you the story. It says that Rav Levi had in the Gemara. It says I think it's in either Megillah or Pesachim. I can look it up. But it says that he had some work happening in his backyard, right? And so the workers were digging up, and they uncovered a grave in his backyard. And so what happened was that the guy in the grave started yelling at them. So they got scared and they went and they found Rav Levi and they bring him to it and they're like, hey, and he says, who are you? And he says, I'm so-and-so. And he was like, that's impossible. That guy's been dead for years. Right? And so he says, obviously you haven't learned enough. Right? This is actually text. This isn't Maharsha. And the Maharsha brings some very interesting ideas about it.
Right.
So he says,
that's just imaginary.
No. The Maharsha says, this actually physically happened, okay? He He went down and he felt his body, and this is what the Maharsha says. He says he felt his body, and it was fleshy, and it was muscly, and the person was whole. This is all right, so you're saying that's midrash.
You mentioned Ein Yaakov. Have you read or the Hakdama that's used nowadays for Ein Yaakov?
No. That's actually something I've never done.
That portion that's used as the Hakdama to Ein Yaakov is actually Avraham ben Arambam's Hakdama to Agadata, his introduction to midrashim and how they should be viewed. And there he makes clearly the statement, I mean something that the Jewish world has always known, that one is not to take all these midrashim literally, that if you believe them all, you're a fool, and if you discount them all as completely useless, then you're also a fool.
Then I've heard that same thing said about Shem.